Convoy ambush. Pressure mats. A recruit who won't blink. Watch how Saide Sink reads dust, birds, and bad wiring. Then flips an entire kill zone without calling for air. Real cues. Quiet decisions. Zero melodrama. They called her a recruit. They said her name like a footnote. Saide Sink. The bus rattled toward the outpost. The windows were scratched. The glass made the world look tired. A dusty road unwound like a rope. The driver didn't talk. The others tried. Their jokes were loud, brave, hollow. Saide kept her eyes on the horizon. It was a thin line, a promise or a warning. She held a broken watch in her palm. It had been her mother's. The face was spidered. The second hand was missing. It never told the hour. It told a different truth. Time can quit on you. You move anyway. Her wallet was empty. Not by accident. She had taken out the cash and mailed it home. Her note was one sentence: I'll earn more the slow way. She wanted no safety net. Nets breed sleep. At the gate, a sergeant counted heads and never looked at faces. Numbers were easier. He gave her a call sign that tasted like dust. Sink. Then he blinked. Saide Sink, that your real name? She nodded. Try not to live up to it. They were briefed in a shipping container that smelled like paint and heat. A map lay on a folding table, corners held down by stones. The river was drawn as a blue thread. The road looked clean. Too clean. The lieutenant tapped a point with a pen. Convoy tomorrow. We ride out at 500. This village is safe. This bend is usually safe. Eyes up anyway, usually safe. The words pinched her ear. She walked the perimeter that night. The wind smelled of metal and fennel and old smoke. Dogs barked beyond the wall and went quiet too fast. She crouched and touched the dirt. It was sifted, as if someone had dragged a sack through and shook something out. She found a flattened battery cap. She found a match that had burned only halfway. She slid them into her pocket. Small things speak. If you listen, her bunk was a cot and a draft. She laid the broken watch on the crate beside her. The second hand was gone, but the minute hand still tried to move, then stumbled back. It looked like a runner who keeps tripping at the same route. She smiled. Same. Sleep came in bursts. She woke to engines coughing. Dawn was a cold metal. The convoy lined up, 2 transports, a radio truck, and an old pickup that carried nothing and pretended to be nothing. The driver of the pickup chewed gum like it was information. Saide stood on the footplate of the second transport. Her rifle was clean. Her hands were not. She had written to no one. She had left no forecast of the day. The road ran between wheat stubble and low ruins. Birds rose, then settled again. Every mile, the lieutenant radioed a word. Clear, Saide breathed on the exhale. Counted fence posts. Counted shades of dust. Counted silences longer than they should be. They reached the bend. The usually safe bend, the kind that looks made for postcards. Date palms, a still canal. A bridge wide enough for hope. She saw it then. Not in the road. In the sky. 3 vultures circling at the wrong height. Too low for dead things. High enough to be bored. She tracked them with her eyes. They turned slow, then drifted east of the bridge, then reeled back as if the air itself had a hook. She tapped the driver's arm. Stop, he laughed. Why? Look, she pointed at the birds. He frowned. Birds fly. She didn't argue. She dropped from the footplate, walked forward, stooped at the road's right edge. The dust there was smooth. Too smooth. Like someone had combed it. She brushed with her glove. Felt thread, Coke's shield. Old wire married to new wire. The wire dove under the packed dirt. Her broken watch lay heavy in her pocket. Her breath went thin, then longer. She stood and traced the wire with her mind. Where would you hide if you were patient? The palms. The canal bank. The loose stones near the culvert mouth. The lieutenant shouted, Mount up! She didn't move. Sink, I said, mount up. She took a step toward the culvert. Another. The sun slid behind a gauze of cloud. The light changed. It made the road look like skin. Sink, the lieutenant barked. This isn't a nature walk. She crouched at the mouth of the culvert and saw it. The tiniest shadow where no shadow should be. A square edge inside a round darkness. She felt the air cool on her cheek, and then from the far palms a small flash blinked. Not sunlight, glass, a signal. She lifted her hand. Palm flat to halt the lead truck. Too late. The pickup rolled past her, coasting toward the bridge. The driver's gum cracking like a fuse. The wire under the dust trembled. The ground took a breath, and the world held still, a heartbeat too long. Sound came back first. A whining mosquito of a signal. Then a shout layered over it. Back, back! Boots scraped. Brakes sobbed. The pickup coasted another meter, another. The driver froze, hands white. Saide was already moving, her brain ran a diagram. If the trigger is pressure, he's safe until the axle rolls the plate. If the trigger is manual, someone is watching the axle. If the trigger is tilt, stop guessing, solve. She slid flat, cheek to road. The dust smelled faintly of old diesel and cut straw. She dragged her glove along the wire. It split into 2 strands and vanished into the culvert. She felt a burr in the copper where a cheap connector bit. Whoever rigged it had skill and not enough time. Good. Rushed hands leave tells. She pulled her empty wallet from her pocket. Useless on purpose, but not useless now. She opened it, removed the trimmed plastic window. She slid the clear square into the culvert and angled it. A mirror in miniature. The reflection gathered shapes. A plastic crate. A pressure plate. A battery taped like a strapped heart. 2 grenades. Not buried, nested, manual or remote. She needed an answer. She listened. The wind rubbed the palms. A fly stuttered against her ear. Far off, a motorcycle coughed and then decided against starting. No click, no set, no surety. The lieutenant's boots pounded up. What is it? Gift box, crude, smart. Can we pass? No, he swore. The radio muttered back at him. Timelines, schedules. None of them cared if a human fit inside them. Saide tapped her broken watch. Superstition or focus? I need 40 seconds. For what? To earn the next 40. She crawled to the pickup's front tire. Neutral, she told the driver. When I say what? Now. She broke a palm frond from the ditch and slid it gently over the wire. She pulled until the slack whispered. The frond quivered in her hand. She imagined the enemy's thumb resting on a switch. Imagine it, bored then eager. She let the frond drop. She needed a way to kill the line. She had no cutters. She did have a bayonet and a short temper with lazy engineering. She scraped a shallow trench under the wire with the blade. The dirt gave easily. She spat into it, made mud, pushed the wire into the slit and packed. It wouldn't sever the signal. It would muffle and slow it. Maybe the difference between boom and almost. The bridge itself bothered her. It was too clean. The rails were wiped. The dust was brushed away where feet had stepped without leaving footprints. That meant weight had been distributed carefully. That meant plates. She took 3 steps onto the first plank. It sighed, she stopped. The plank ahead looked the same, but wood tells its own story. The grain's shine was wrong. Someone had oiled it. Behind her, the lieutenant hissed, "We're a target here." "Yes," she said, "which is why they're not shooting yet." He blinked at that. Ambush math, let the bomb do the work. Save the rounds for the survivors. She backed off the bridge, eyes on the palm grove. There, a blink again. Not sunlight. A glint of a small optic, the kind you clip on a cheap phone. The watcher was patient and proud. "Smoke?" the lieutenant asked. "No, too late and too obvious." She looked at the canal. Still water. A thin film of oil made rainbows. At the far bank, a shallow angle of mud told a story. Something heavy had been dragged down, then up again. It had scuffed a precise path. She traced the angle with her eyes. It pointed at a ruined wall. Then the wind shifted. She smelled it, fertilizer and battery and impatience. She stood and walked into the road, raising both hands. She faced the palms. She was a small target in a big morning. Her voice didn't rise. "I see you," she said to the leaves. "And I am bored," silence answered. The kind that feels like a smirk. She took one more step forward, then stopped and tugged the frayed strap of her empty wallet until it snapped. She tossed the wallet onto the bridge. It landed on that oiled plank. Nothing happened. She waited, counted to 8. Then the plank exhaled barely. A sigh of tiny mechanics setting teeth. The plank was the lure. The trigger was elsewhere. Her skin went cold. She pivoted, eyes catching a dark nub on the culvert lip. Not a wire, a reed. Hollow. Someone had run deet cord through it. The trigger was in the water, not the wood. "If they blow it, we'll cut the convoy in half," she said. "Then they shoot the first and last." The lieutenant's jaw went stone. "Then we don't let them blow," the pickup driver whispered. "How?" Saide slid down the canal bank on her hip, boots searching for friction in the mud. The water welcomed her with a slap of cold. She hissed but didn't stop. She went under once, twice, scouring along the culvert exterior. Her fingers found tape, found grit. Found a lump the size of a fist where no fist should live. She pried, it held. She pried harder. It shifted. A bubble rose. A bird screamed. A shot snapped from the palms and bit the canal just ahead of her. The water jumped. She tasted metal. She tore the lump free and held it up. A receiver pitted, cheap, hungry, another shot closer. She had the receiver. She didn't have the detonator. And from the bridge came a soft, tired click. She knew that sound, not a trigger. A relay setting. "A promise, everyone off the bridge," she shouted. The driver smashed his door open and rolled. The radio truck jolted backward. The lead transport stalled and coughed a refusal. The world shrank to the span of 2 planks and a breath. Saide lunged onto the bridge and jammed her bayonet between the oiled plank and its beam. Wood complained. Nails argued. She levered and felt something give, not the plank, but a weight underneath, shifting like an offended eel. She put her shoulder into it. The broken watch bit her wrist bone. The minute hand shook as if trying to help. A round chewed the railing beside her. Splinters bit her ear. She didn't look up. Look up and you give time away. She ripped the plank free. Beneath it, a thin, translucent sheet stretched taut. Pressure mat. Wires ran from it like veins into the culvert wall. The sheet had a pattern of scuffs, old boots printed in dust. They'd tested it twice, then reset it. They were confident now. She slid the plank back half an inch to keep the mat from resting. She wedged the bayonet to hold it. A bad prop is better than a good funeral. Cover smoke, the lieutenant rasped. Then, no, hold. He'd remembered her no. Maybe he'd remembered why. She crawled to the culvert lip, water dark under her, and pressed the captured receiver to the reed. It didn't fit. Wrong plug. That meant a second receiver, likely on a different frequency. She swore without any style. She hated redundant plans, hers and others. She felt eyes on her from the palm grove. Patience eyes. She glanced at the road. The convoy formed a crooked spine, vertebrae of steel and fear. She needed a break in the attacker's rhythm. Something too stupid to predict. She stood, lifted her empty wallet, and threw it hard down the canal. It slapped, spun, and drifted toward the culvert mouth. 2 more shots, both at the wallet. Both missed. The shooter was human again, not a topping on a myth. He could be baited. On my shout, she told the driver. Hard reverse, wheel right. When? When you think it's wrong. He nodded once. Good. Wrong moments save right lives. She pried another plank, found another strip of pressure mat. They'd layered them. Learned from themselves. Good enemy. It meant a sloppy pride somewhere else. She needed that sloppy place. She slid beneath the bridge onto a shelf of damp concrete. The culvert opened like a throat. On its inner rim she found a nest of tape and wires and a single cooking pan screwed to the cement, turned into a shield. Who carries a pan to war? Someone who believes breakfast will still come after. She ripped the tape, found the junction, pinched the wrong wire on purpose. A test, the relay clicked again. Louder now. Somewhere a light went from green to wanting. She shut her eyes, saw her mother's kitchen, the burned ring on the stove where soup once boiled dry. Don't stare at fire, her mother had said. It will think you want it. She opened her eyes and stared right at it. The fire was under the road. The road's heart was hollow. Sink, the lieutenant shouted. Decision. Give me 30, she said, and meant 3. She crawled back up, mud banding her knees. She looked at the palm grove and saw a sliver of a face now. Not the whole. Just the cheek with a scar that ran thin as thread. Not a sniper scar. A life scar. She raised her hand, extended one finger, then another, counting. Slow. The face did not move. She stopped at 5. He didn't shoot. 5 men? 5 charges? 5 seconds until some routine ticked. The broken watch lay warm. She listened to a heartbeat that wasn't hers. The relay, it ticked again. Not on seconds. On breath, all vehicles, she said. Kill engines. Everyone who can hear me, breathe with me. What? The lieutenant barked. Breathe with me. She inhaled long, exhaled long. She counted her breaths. When she reached 4, the relay clicked again. A breath trigger. Someone had been lazy and tied a cheap sensor to a timer that samples air pressure in the culvert. Smart and stupid at once. Hold breath on my mark, she said. 3, 2. She clamped her mouth shut. The road held its breath too. The clicking stopped. She exhaled a thin thread through her nose. Still nothing. Good, she grinned with too many teeth. Driver, she whispered. Now! The pickup slammed reverse, wheel right, dragging its front axle off the plank. The bayonet shuddered but held. The mat sheet stayed just light. The convoy backed. The road shivered with the shame of a missed kill. From the palms came a curse. A human one. The shooters rose with their anger. Their plan had been a dance and she had stepped on a foot. Go! The lieutenant roared. Saide didn't go. She jumped into the canal again. She dove under and jammed her fingers into the reed. She felt soft putty and an electric itch. She found the real receiver under the lip, taped to a bolt slick with algae. It tore back. She twisted. It let go like a tooth. She surfaced with it, coughing. She raised it high. Your mouth is empty, she shouted to the palms. Eat your own plan. A burst of fire answered wild and high, and behind her from the far side of the canal a shape rose out of the reeds, close, silent, and holding a knife. He was young, younger than her. His knife was clean. His hands were not. He stepped with care like a hunter who loves the deer. He didn't see her as a person. He saw her as the last errand. She threw the receiver into the shallows. It landed with a sound like a coin hitting a jar. His eyes flicked to the sound. 1 blink's worth. She used the blink. She went low. The knife kissed air where her throat had been. She grabbed his wrist, twisted his thumb. The blade fell. It slid down the mud like shame. He punched. His fist had never learned a lesson. It hit water. She hit him under the ear with the heel of her palm. His legs forgot their job. Don't, she said, quiet. She meant, don't make me finish you. He looked at her and heard it. He froze. A second too long. Another shooter on the bank had better instincts. He fired. The bullet found the young man's shoulder and threw him backward into the canal. The shooters didn't want witnesses. Not living ones. Saide grabbed the boy's collar and hauled him toward the culvert shelf. He was light with hunger. His breath came like a trapped bird. He clutched her sleeve once. She shook him off and shoved him behind the cement lip. Stay. Why? He gasped. In that one word was a whole life. Because I said so, she said. It wasn't mercy. It was math. He knew things. He could still choose a different road. On the bridge, the bayonet screamed. The wedged plank shifted. The mat moaned. She scrambled up, jammed her boot against the bayonet handle and leaned her full weight. The wood settled with a tired groan. The lieutenant crawled beside her under fire, a smile he didn't own on his face. You good? No, she said. Same. He handed her a roll of electrical tape. Stole it off the radio kit. She blinked. Bless your theft. She wrapped the tape around the bayonet shaft, lashed it to the rail and braced the plank. It wasn't elegant. It didn't need to be. It needed to survive one more bad minute. Bullets stitched the road near the lead truck. Someone screamed and then remembered not to. Smoke would help now. Not to obscure, just to insult. The lieutenant nodded. 2 canisters bloomed low and lazy. The smoke rolled like old breath across the bridge. Saide slid back to the culvert mouth and looked for the boy. He was there, pressed into shadow, eyes huge. He pointed at the far bank with frantic fingers. She followed the line. A shape behind the date palms, bulkier than the others. The overseer, the one with the radio. She signaled to the lieutenant, high value left. He had no shot. The grove kept its secrets. She sighed. The ambush had too many legs. Cut the ones you can reach. She scanned the canal again and found a third reed, shorter, plugged with a cork dark with red mud. She pulled the cork with her teeth. A breath of methane rolled out. It wasn't a detonator. It was a sensor. A cheap unit turned into a lung. She spat the cork and laughed. The sound surprised her. The world had failed to stay clever. Convoy, she said into the lieutenant's mic. We're going to take this bridge in reverse. He looked at her. We're what? Back everyone across the canal bank. We'll pack the road edge. We'll ride the lip. Too narrow. Exactly. They didn't plan for it. He held her eyes for a long heartbeat. Then he nodded. Driver, do something stupid and precise. Engines coughed, turned, crawled. Tires kissed mud and slid with care. The trucks inched along the canal edge, mirrors nearly tasting the palms. The smoke made a wall. Shooters cursed behind it. The boy tugged her sleeve again. He pointed not at the palms now, but at the bridge railing itself. His finger traced a notch carved into the steel. A small V, then another 3 feet along. Another V. He made a walking motion with his fingers. He whispered one word so softly it was mostly breath. Steps, Saide's scalp prickled. She crouched and felt beneath the rail where the V sat. A flat plate, a small hinge. She snapped it open. Inside, a pocket for a shaped charge, empty. She checked the next. Full. Clay packed clean. Wires tidy. The ambush had a second mouth. She wanted to curse with poetry. She settled for plain. Of course, she looked at the boy. How many? He held up 3 fingers. Then he touched the far end of the bridge. 4. We're dancing, she told the lieutenant. We are not, he said. We are crawling. She opened the first full pocket and felt for the blasting cap. It was taped in a loop. She rolled it between 2 fingers and found the weak place. She snapped it like a wishbone. It hurt her thumb. She did the next. She did the next. The last one sat at the far rail, facing the palm grove's deepest shade. The lieutenant's voice in her ear. We're almost clear. Almost is a religion, she said. I don't have one. She crawled toward the last pocket, counting V-notches, 1, 2, 3. She reached for the lid, and from beneath the bridge came a fresh sound. Not the relay, not the mat. A new voice, wet, heavy, and very close, beginning to hiss. The hiss carried a rhythm like boiling milk. It meant pressure. It meant impatience turning into heat. She slid to the gap and peered down. A small cylinder sat glued under the beam, sweating. Someone had smuggled in a gas bottle as a cheap amplifier. Not to kill the bridge. To throw fire across it, fire pot, she muttered. They wanted panic. The lieutenant swore in wonder. Who plans this hard and aims that low? People who like mess. She measured the angle. If it ignited, the flame would sweep the road where the radio truck crawled. She could sever the tube if she reached it. But reaching it meant letting her weight off the taped bayonet and the plank would sag. Choices choke you if you let them. She looked at her broken watch. The glass had a star she didn't notice before. New crack, new truth. She took the watch off, pressed it into the boy's hand. If I go under, count your breaths until your chest burns. He stared at the watch as if it were a key. Who are you? Wrong question, she said and dropped. Cold water slapped again. She sucked air through clenched teeth and slid under the beam. The cylinder sweated faster. The hiss sang. She felt for the tube and found it vibrating like a cheap guitar string. She pulled the bayonet from its tape lash with one hand. With the other, she kept pressure on the plank with her knee. A bad circus act. She sliced the tube. Gas sneezed, then slowed. The hiss died like a secret losing courage. The plank groaned. She jammed the bayonet back into place and shouldered it. Tape rasping her cheek. She counted to 3. The road held. The bridge held. The morning held. She crawled back up, lungs sore. The boy watched her with the broken watch in both hands. He'd counted. His eyes were bright with a feeling he didn't trust. She pointed at the far V-notch. Last one, she said. Then we leave this place to the vultures. She flipped the lid and reached for the cap. The overseer finally moved. A figure stepped out of the deepest shade, not hurried. He wore a scarf the color of sand after rain. He carried a radio and a comm that made her angry. He raised a small remote and tilted his head at her like a teacher asking if she'd finished her homework. She lifted the blasting cap and held it between her teeth. She spread her hands to show they were empty otherwise. He smiled in a way that used no muscle. Then he pressed the remote's button. Nothing happened. The boy gasped. The overseer frowned. He pressed it again. The relay clicked under the road like a lonely metronome. The shaped charges stayed asleep. The sensor lungs, robbed of their breath, refused to sing. His calm cracked. Small but enough. He switched to the rifle on his back. He lifted it and Saide stood up into a shot that never came. Because the pickup driver, who nobody remembered, who chewed gum like a metronome, who had reversed on a wrong moment, now floored his pedal on a right one. The pickup fishtailed through the smoke, kissed the bridge rail with its bumper, and shoved its hood between Saide and the rifle. The shot punched the headlight instead of her head. Glass fell like thin ice. Saide spat the blasting cap into her palm, snapped it, and flung the clay puck into the canal. It hit the water and sighed. The overseer retreated into the shadow with a steady, careful step. He didn't run. He didn't need to. He had more plans. Convoy is clear, the lieutenant said, voice shaking for the first time. We're across. Saide looked at the boy. He looked at her. The broken watch ticked once. She didn't know if it was real. She slid down and dragged the boy up the bank. Go, she told him. Find the North Farm Road. Keep the canal on your left. If you see the dog with the black ear, give him your bread. There's no bread, he said. Then give him your fear. He stared. Understood something he didn't have words for. Nodded. He pressed the broken watch back into her palm and ran along the water like a string pulled tight. The overseer's shadow blinked again. This time not a flash, an absence. She felt it, not saw it. The way the leaves shifted against a wind that hadn't changed. The way the canal's skin shivered. She turned too late. A new wire, thinner than hair, lay across the road behind her boot. It ran to a small box glued under the rail at knee height. Not a charge, a camera. It blinked once, sending, telling, somewhere. Someone's phone lit up with her picture. He wasn't trying. To kill her now, he was keeping her, and the radio on her shoulder crackled with a single message from a voice she didn't. No, stay where you are, the stranger said. Walk forward 5 steps. Or we will light up the road behind your convoy.